Thanks for the pressure, Mick. Really appreciate it. If you could stand outside your own body and pick a life for yourself, I would not have chosen this one. And I should be dead. I should be dead. But I'm ever so grateful that I'm not. In 2008, I considered myself a pretty lucky man. I was married with 2 children. I owned a beautiful 50-square home. I drove a Mercedes-Benz and I rode a Harley-Davidson. And everything in my life had turned to gold. I had great parents. I had a great upbringing. I was fit as a fiddle, a 2 times Australian kickboxing champion and a South Pacific kickboxing champion. And one day, whilst I was at work, I was struck in the back with a forklift, damaging my lower spine. And that's where it all started. The doctors put me on numerous medications, muscle relaxants, nerve relaxants, painkillers, sleeping tablets, antidepressants, and nothing really worked. And we tried numerous medical treatments, physiotherapy, chiropractic, spinal therapy, acupuncture. It didn't do very much. And all of a sudden, I would watch my wife and my kids go on with their day-to-day activities, and I felt useless. I felt useless as a man. I felt useless as a husband. I felt useless as a provider, and I felt useless as a father. And depression started kicking in, and my friends would ring me up and say, come and watch the fights, or when are you coming back to work? And I would not pick up the phone, or I didn't want to hear or see anybody. I shut myself off to the world. In actual fact, I could not even make it upstairs to the marital bedroom. One day, there was a knock at the door, bang, 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 and I could hear my name getting yelled, and I got up, and I saw through the curtains my mate, who's peeking through the blinds, saying, I know you're in there, I'm coming to see you, come out. So I opened the door, and it was an acquaintance of mine. I let him in. And he heard that I wasn't in a great way, and he thought that he would bring me something to help me with the pain. It was the drug ice, methamphetamine. Now, I had been 12 months into this journey, and it felt like forever. So I was desperate, and I would have tried anything. And I had heard about ice, and ice being addictive and dangerous. But I watched him use this drug, and it did not look dangerous. I always imagined a dangerous drug being something that you have in a syringe and you whack straight into your bloodstream. Well, all he did was he dropped a small crystal-type substance into a glass pipe, put a cigarette lighter underneath, evaporated the substance, and inhaled the smoke. That did not look scary. It did not look dangerous. It did not look addictive. So I told him I'll give it a crack. Give it a crack, pun. And then it was my turn. So he repeated the process, and he said, inhale this. And all I have to say is wow. Wow, wow, wow. I'm a Maltese man, so I'm pretty hairy, right? And every hair from the tip of my toe to the back of my neck stood up. Right? All of a sudden, my mind was no longer a prisoner of my body. My mouth was running 100 miles an hour. Right? And so was my mind. And I rang up my friends from training and I said, I'm coming back to training. I rang up my friends from work, said, I'm coming to work. And that feeling lasted for about 48 hours. No sleep. 48 hours, I felt unbelievable. And then I came down harder than I had ever felt before. And the doctor's meds did not touch the sides. So me, thinking that I'm smart, came up with a great idea that I would start self-medicating on $100 worth of ice a day. $100 worth of ice a day. That's where it started. Because it escalated very quickly. From 100 to 200, from 200 to 400, to 600, to 900, and in the end I was using over $1,000 worth of ice a day. In that world, in the world of addiction, in the world of drugs, to support your habit, you either do one of two things. You either deal or you steal. I've never made much of a thief, so I started dealing drugs. Whilst dealing drugs, I was shot in the thigh and I was stabbed 3 times in the back of the neck by 3 guys trying to stand over me for money and drugs. And I was nearly killed. Whilst using drugs, my father died. A short time later, my brother died. 3 months after that, my mother died. And then 12 months after that, my baby daughter died. And I'm grabbing her coffin, picking her coffin up off the back seat of a limousine, a little pink coffin, and putting her body into the ground. I wanted to die too. I wanted to be in that hole with her to protect her. And that year, I tried taking my own life 5 times. 5 times. They were not half-hearted suicide attempts. My last suicide attempt was a sawn-off shotgun I had jammed in my mouth and pulled the trigger, a loaded gun. And like I said to you before, how I stand here before you today, I will never know. But I'm ever so grateful that I do. Now, before too long, I got the police's attention in the wrong way, right? And after numerous police raids, I was, and each time the police finding drugs, I was sentenced to 12 months in prison with an 18-month corrections order. And jail was exactly where I deserved to be, right? Because I was doing the wrong thing. I was selling drugs. I deserved to go to jail. I have no qualms about going to jail. But jail was an eye-opener. A 3 by 2 metre cell, and you get fed through a little slot in the door in a little plastic container. And just as you're ready to start eating your dinner, your cellmate, less than a metre away, decides to take a dump, right? As if my life was not bad before, right? That was my time to rehabilitate myself. There are plenty of drugs in jail, plenty, legal and illegal. I used my time in jail to rehabilitate myself. I stayed right away from that, and I completed over 20 programs and courses to give myself some tools for when I came home to be a better person of society. Thank you. Time moves very slowly when you're in jail, and 12 months, it felt like a lifetime. But the time had come for me to come home, and my brother had picked me up from the train station, and the jail had organised a boarding house for me. My brother took me to this home, pulled up out the front, and that was an eye-opener, because there was a lounge suite in the middle of the front lawn. There was a car in the driveway with smashed windows and no number plates. I knew what this house was. I dealt drugs to houses like this before. And I knock on the door, and after a while I hear some keys rattling, and the door opens, and this really big lady comes to the door, and she's slurring her words, and she's got track marks up and down her arms, and she asked me if I was there for the room, and I said yes. And it was really hard because she was cross-eyed, and one eye was looking that way, another eye was looking that way. I felt embarrassed, didn't even know where to look, right? And she tells me to come through down the hallway, and the house stunk. The house stunk like a pub, right? Like full of beer bottles. And she undoes these 3 padlocks on the door like Maxwell Smart, and she's slurring away, telling me that I have to lock my door every time I go to the toilet because everything gets stolen in that house. And she said, by the way, your room smells like urine because the guy in the room next to you urinates on your wall and it goes into your carpet. I think this is great, right? And sure enough, she opens the door and the smell of urine knocked me for a 6. It smelled like a putrid urinal in a male public toilet. It was disgusting. And I stuck my head in that room and there was three used syringes on the carpet. and my mattress and base had a big, dirty brown blood patch in the middle. And that was where I was supposed to start my new life. My jail cell was cleaner than that house that the jail had organised for me. And I begged my brother and asked him if he could help me, and he organised a hotel for a few nights, and then we got into a better boarding house, a drug-free boarding house. So at least I had a roof over my head. One thing I didn't tell you is this lady, I failed to mention, she was telling me that her room was just across the passage, and if I needed anything, and I mean anything, come and knock on her door. Now, I just done 12 months in jail, but I was not that desperate, right? She was even scarier than jail, let me tell you. I got into this BEDA boarding house, and my corrections order still meant I had to do 380 hours community work, a mental health order, a drug and alcohol order, a men's behaviour change program, and I had to see my caseworker once a week, as well as try and find some employment. I was released on Centrelink, and Centrelink was $520 a fortnight, and I was surviving. That boarding house I was in was $200 a week, and I was surviving off $60 a week. And every job I applied for, as soon as they saw I had a criminal record, I would never hear back. After the first week of my Centrelink payment, I was broke and I was hungry, and I was going to church groups for food parcels. After about 6 months of this, I could not take it anymore. And I went and see my caseworker at corrections, and I said, I need some help. I said, can I get a job? Nobody wants to know me. I think I'm better off back in jail, but I don't want to end up dead. And I want to get my life back. And this is where the turning point in this story is. She reaches into the trash can and she pulls out a flyer, and it was from Fruit2Work. And it said, we are seeking a delivery driver, and if you've got criminal history, you are encouraged to apply. Applied for the job, met a lady, heard my story, she said, you're a perfect candidate. I got the job. Fantastic. Finally, a door had opened for me. Right? And the job was starting at 1:30 in the morning. It was on the other side of town. It was 2 days a week, but it was a job. I was given a high-vis uniform. I was supplied with keys to a van. I was supplied to keys to buildings. So I was given trust. And all of a sudden, my confidence started to build. And before I knew it, I was delivering to people's offices. They were happy to see me. I was happy to see them. It was great. I was paying tax. I was happy to be paying tax. Right? I'm not happy to be paying tax anymore, let me tell you. Right? But my life started to turn around. And before I knew it, I was promoted to the team leader. 12 months later, I got promoted to the operations manager. And I was in the operations manager for about 4 years. I was in a position where I could help other people through the same struggles that I had been through. And I enjoyed it, and I loved it, and I would watch the caterpillar to the butterfly every time. Today I am the National General Manager of Fruit2Work. Today, I am on the board of directors. If you put the bullshit titles aside that aren't important, today I've got a beautiful family. We've just built a brand new house, and I have full custody of my youngest son, Brody, who is 10 years old. And I want to read to you a card that Brody wrote to me a couple of years ago, and I take it everywhere with me. And it says, "Happy birthday, old dad. I love you with all my heart, and you are the best dad in the world." I am not the best dad in the world, but I'm the best dad in the world to that boy because somebody gave me a chance. Fruit2Work creates meaningful transitional employment for people impacted by the justice system. We're a non-for-profit social enterprise with charity status. We currently employ 123 people, and we have transitioned over 130 people back into the community as returning citizens. The best part about all of that is in the 8.5 years of its operation, not one person that has joined our program has gone back to prison. That is zero. In Australia today, 1 in 2 people released from prison will go back in 2 years. we've had not one person go back to prison. A social enterprise that delivers fruit, milk and pantry items. Reuniting families, making parents better parents, making the community a safer place. The ripple effect of what we do is huge. Today, we have 5 locations spanning from Victoria to Queensland, with an annual turnover of $9 million. My life changed because I've worked really hard. My life changed because somebody gave me a chance. A social enterprise changed my life. I should be dead, but I'm ever so grateful that I'm not. My name is Simon Fenech, and it has been an absolute pleasure to tell you my story this evening. Thank you.